Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping this word of sincerity and the truth. Okay, I wanted to go into a lesson going into discipline and how discipline is one of the attributes, or it's going to be one of the attributes that's needed in the times to come, especially for primarily for men, or mainly for men, discipline and at least a certain level of self mastery, understanding who you are, understanding, and when I mean who you are, I'm not saying as far as us knowing we Israelites, but I mean knowing yourself and getting a general understanding of yourself, because once you're able to master yourself, then you'll be able to lead others. Once you're able to lead yourself, you'll be able to lead others. And I just wanted to first pull up the definition of discipline, and then go into a couple scriptures on it. Lord, what is edifying. So this is discipline on the AI overview, and it says discipline is the self-practice. Discipline is the practice of self-control and the training to follow rules, which helps achieving goals by providing structure, consistency, and focus. And this is all throughout the scriptures. It's encouraged for us to, be disciplined and to be able to control ourselves, be well-rounded. Mind, body, spirit, being able to control your emotions, rule your flesh. And we have been given that level of power through Yahweh Shai, through Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. But it takes time to get to that level. It's not anything that's just going to be given. Anything difficult to obtain is going to be far more greater, So it says it involves doing what you set out to do, even when motivation is low, and can be developed through systems and habits rather than a personality trait. Right. And it's basically saying, even because, most people say, I don't have the motivation to do this or do that, no. Just like for the gym, for example, most people be like, I would want to go to the gym, but I just don't be having the motivation. No, it's not. It's not just the fact that you don't have motivation. It's the fact that you're not disciplined enough to go, for it to be a part of your daily life. That's why I say that. It says, while the word can also refer to punishment or a field of study, which that's a part of it. Its core meaning is related to learning and training to achieve order and improvement, which that's a part of it. And I didn't even know it was going to say that. And it made me think about Sirach chapter 2. It says, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Now, I want to see what that said in the GNT. This is Sirach chapter 2 and 1, the GNT. Faithfulness to God, my child. If you are going to serve the Lord, be prepared for times when you would be put to the test. Be sincere and determined. Keep calm when trouble comes. See? And this is all a part of discipline. It's teaching you that the process of serving the Lord is a process of becoming disciplined and learning self-mastery, which I'm going to go more back into the definition. And I'm going to go more into that scriptures. He says key aspects of discipline is the first one is self-control, the ability to regulate your own behavior, resist distractions, and persist through challenges to achieve a goal. So the first thing, self-control, the ability to regulate your own behavior. A lot of men do not have self-control. And that's in that's in many forms, many different forms. Both, they don't have the self-control to control their emotions, their thoughts, their behavior, because there's even a quote that say, if he who can anger you, that's who controls you. Let me see if I can get that real quick. Yeah. See, it says the saying, "He who angers you controls you," meaning that by allowing someone to provoke your anger, you are giving them power over your emotional state and reactions. So he who angers you controls you, or he who angers you conquers you. It said it emphasizes the true freedom comes from controlling your emotions as letting others manipulate your feelings, meaning losing your autonomy to them. This concept is found in philosophical traditions like Stoicism and also appear in other wisdom traditions such as the Book of Proverbs. Let's see if we get a description on it. Okay, Proverbs. I want to see if you. Well, I'll have to go in. It didn't quote it. Oh, here we go. Proverbs 14:29. Whoever is patient has great understanding, but one who is quick-tempered displays folly. I'm not sure which translation that is, but there it is. It says this means that controlling one's anger and being patient shows wisdom and self-control, while a hasty temper leads to foolish mistakes and poor judgment. And a lot of men do not have self-control. They do not have control over their emotions, and people can easily anger them and get upset. That's why these men are so emotional. And that's why these men snap out. That's why they lash out. They lose control and somebody do something wrong to them. And I'm talking about Israelite men. I'm not even talking about the other nations. I'm talking about Israelite men. That's why a lot of them, they can, you do something wrong or somebody do something wrong to them and they spaz out and they'll mess around and kill them. All because of they're not in control of their emotions. We know women are the same way. That's really a feminine trait. Being undisciplined enough to be able to control your own emotions. That's a feminine trait because women, they are highly emotional. That's how they operate. They can't control their emotions. That's what a man is for. A man is supposed to be able to control his emotions, and knowing how to control your own emotions, you will know how to lead and guide a woman. But a lot of men do not have control over their emotions. Another thing, a lot of men do not have control over their sexual appetite. A lot of men, they can't resist the urge to get with a woman, whether she's taken, especially if she's taken, because we already know a lot of women that are taken, they try to make themselves available so they can commit adultery, because adultery is rampant in Babylon, the greatest, rampant in America. And a lot of men, they will jump on the opportunity regardless if the woman is with a man. They don't care. Men can't control themselves. But I want to get that too. I don't want to, because I got some scriptures also I want to get. This might be it right here. No, it's not it. Let's see. It said 20 through 26. See? Proverbs 6:20 through 35. Let's get 24 through 35. Destructive behavior. Committing adultery is equated to playing with fire or walking on hot coals. It is destructive. It is a destructive act that would inevitably lead to harm and would not go unpunished. It says the passage states that a man who commits adultery destroys his own soul. And the repercussions, it says the consequences of adultery include wounds, disgrace, shame, and cannot be wiped away. Now, the point I want to get is how it says, he that committed adultery lacks understanding. Right, see, verse 32. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. Now let me get 32 in a couple different translations. That's a lot here. I'm cooking. Let's get verse 32. Bible Hood. I think the Bible Hood, yeah. Okay, so it says this Proverbs 6:32 in the NIV. But a man who commits adultery has no sense. Whoever does so destroys himself. The KJV says, but whosoever committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroys his own soul. This is a man who lacks discipline. I wanted to see if it if it said that, if it actually included the word discipline. But still not having sense. It said out of his mind, lacks wisdom, or lacks understanding. So lacks judgment. It's the same thing. You don't have discipline, you know. You don't have control over your own flesh. So let's go back. Self-control, but then not only just with adultery, because I was thinking too, even because like I said, it's a lot of men quoting Isaiah 4:1 now that they talking about the now November 1st is almost upon us, and we're gonna see just how much these women are going to how desperate they're going to get. I say it like that. I was about to say submit, but honestly, this is not enough to make them submit. You know, it needs to get a whole lot worse. But we're going to just see for a lot of these women just how desperate they're going to get. And a lot of men are saying that the price that these women are willing to accept just to be able to survive and eat is going to drastically drop, you know? So we're going to see, because a lot of men, I guarantee you, a lot of men have gotten excited by hearing the news that women are talking about selling it, you know? And especially a lot of men who probably getting a lot of attention from women or getting a lot of women, they getting excited. But these are men who are not disciplined, you know, because it's more than just being able to have sex. And these and the Lord is setting this up, because all the women that will be selling it, they already doing it. They already doing it, even if they ain't broadcasted it in that fashion. A lot of these women be on these day naps. They want a man to take them out, spend money on them, make sure they eat. It's the same thing. You know, if he's spending money on you and then at the end of the date, you give it to him, well, it's the same thing. You just got a meal with it. You know, you didn't get the money directly. You got it in the form of food. So it's literally the same thing. These women, they go on multiple dates with multiple men. It's literally the same thing. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is these men aren't disciplined. You know, the men of the Lord will have discipline. And I'm not saying the men of the Lord is not going to deal with women. You know, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is a lot of these men, they be addicted to, they have various addictions. You know, still on the sexual, they have these various fetishes and different stuff that they into. These are men who dealt with men on the down low. Or these are men who are addicted to corn, you know, and they can't break themselves free, you know. They can't get free from that world, you know. So these are men who haven't understood the level of discipline that it takes in self-control, self-mastery. Like I said, the ability to regulate your own behavior, resist distractions, and persist through challenges to achieve a goal. You know, it's various addictions that people are addicted to that they can't break free from. And that level of self-control, it has to be built. You know, and it takes time. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. That's why you see a lot of people they used to be drug addicts or whatever, and they'll get free, they'll get clean, and they'll be clean for a little while. But when they get back exposed to it, they relapse. And then they fall back into it, and it'd be even harder for them to come back out of it, you know, because they was going steady for a little minute, and they was building that discipline, but they fell weak. But the men of the Lord is not gonna fall weak. We've been learning discipline in various shapes and forms. So it says system of rules, enforcing a set of rules or standards for behavior and conduct which can be applied to personal life or organization. You know, basically you having a system of how you live, you know, a way of life that suits the level that you're trying to achieve. Because ultimately, with us learning this truth and growing, and becoming more and more disciplined, we are supposed to get to a level of self mastery, being able to control your thoughts, your mind, your body, your behavior, your emotions, you know, your sexual appetite, all of these sorts. All of this makes you stronger as a man. This makes you more manly. Let me start getting a couple of these scriptures. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 9, starting at verse 25 in the AMP. Now, every athlete who goes into training and competes in the games is disciplined and exercises self-control in all things. They do it to win a crown that withers, but we do it to receive an imperishable crown that cannot wither. And anybody that's done any type of extracurricular activity, in school or anything extra, you understand that it takes training. Like I said, you got to train and you got to be disciplined. So like me, for myself, for example, I played sports and I was in the band. I did, my main sport was baseball. I grew up playing baseball. But I also played soccer. I also played a little football, and I played a little basketball. But my main sport was baseball, and it takes discipline, to do all these different. Oh, I also ran track. It takes discipline to do all these various sports, because the training part is the hard part. When you go out there to perform, you already have reached a level. Now the system that you learned through in training. So, for example, like with all the various sports, you gotta run. They want you to get your cardio up because you gotta build your stamina. You gotta run. It's a lot of times you gotta do things repetitiously. You gotta consistently show up to practice. All of this is the training matrix that's building the system, because eventually your body gets conditioned to it and you adjust to it. So it becomes easier over time. That's where discipline starts to come in. I'm going to read the definition of discipline again. It says the practice of self-control and the training to follow rules. See, the training that follow of rules that you're following, that eventually becomes your way of life. The practice of self-control and the training to follow rules, which helps in achieving goals by providing structure, consistency, and focus. Going back to the scripture. Now, every athlete who goes into training and competes in the games is disciplined and exercises self-control in all things. I also did band. I played the trombone in the band, and that comes with a level of discipline. You have to learn. You have to train yourself to first be able to have enough stamina to continue on playing. Because, down here in the South, we we don't play like Esau. I just say it like that. We don't play like the Edomites. We play like Israelites when we in the band, or when we was in the band. And everybody down here that know about the Southern bands know what I'm talking about, So, but even to get to that level, because, Esau got his own standard of playing too. And not saying that it's less structured or anything, but it ain't how Jake do it, It ain't how the Southern Kingdom do it. And it ain't just the Southern Kingdom, but it's predominantly the Southern Kingdom. So anyways, even to get to that level, it takes a lot of discipline. You have to learn the music and be able to memorize, and that takes practice. That takes consistent practice, And like I said, you need the stamina, because band is almost like a sport. You got to march. You got to be able to continue on moving when you're tired and continue on playing when you're tired. Your lips will be tired. All of this requires a level of discipline. So how much more when it comes to building character, Because I'm going to go back to that second Sirach. Now, verse 26, AMP. Therefore, I do not run without a definite goal. I do not flail around like one beat in the air, just shadow boxing, But like a boxer, I strictly discipline my body and make it my slave. And the KJV, it says, but I keep my keep under my body and bring it into subjection. So he has control over himself. This is Paul speaking. He said, look, I learned how to control myself, control my flesh and bring it under into my subjection. And it takes a level of discipline. Paul didn't deal with no women. You know how disciplined you have to be as a man to I don't want to say reject, but to put off a biological nature. A man desires a woman. We desire women. And in this modern society where women is so easily accessible, being able to resist, because you got men out here who actually like this. They resist dealing with women, and not to not deal with women, but they don't want to just deal with any woman and deal with any situation that it brings, but you still had that desire. So do you know how the level of strength and discipline it takes to resist something that's biologically wired into you and bring it into subjection? Like he said, but like a boxer, I strictly discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached the gospel to others, I myself would not somehow become disqualified as unfit for service. So Paul was saying, look, I bring my body. I'm not telling y'all this, and then I go back and I fail at what I'm telling y'all. I practice discipline, bringing my mind into subjection, my body, my emotions, everything, because you don't understand. You might not know what you might have to deal with or face in the future, but and this is something that is taught in Stoicism. You can't control everyone. You can't control anything but yourself. You can't control outside factors, but you can control yourself. And that takes a level of discipline. So when something unfavorable happens to you, or you might have to deal with unfavorable situations, how you respond to it lets you know what level you are or level you on. Let me go back to it. Self-control. I'm going to read self-control again. The ability to regulate your own behavior, resist distractions, and persist through challenges to achieve a goal. And a goal is for us to continually transform into a version that Yahweh Bashim Yahushua would be happy of. The best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. Because in this world, you're not taught discipline. Especially as a man, you're taught to give in to your lust. First and foremost, you're taught to suppress your emotions. Having emotions is weak. It's not weak for a man to have emotions, but it's weak for a man to be emotional. We are wired to still have emotions, but knowing how to regulate your emotions and control it without it controlling you, then that takes a different level of mastery, and as a man, like I said, you're taught to suppress your emotions or not have emotions at all. That's why people explode. They can't contain it, they can't control it, you do have limits, but for the most part, people are not even trying to take that first step to be able to control it. So, like I said, you got emotions. You're not taught how to control your emotions in this society. This whole society is over sexualized. Everything from things you see on social media to seeing movies, seeing games, hearing music, seeing things that you text messages, conversations. Everything is over sexualized, and it's meant to stimulate you in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Whether you get on these dating apps and go find a woman to deal with and make a bad decision because you wasn't disciplined, or you get hooked on corn and now you don't want to deal with it and now you can't escape, because you become addicted to it, and that's $1 billion industry. How do they make so much money? Because they got so many people addicted to it, and that's why they got it free. They made it free to people so people can be addicted to it, because you got things like the Viagra's and other different pills and stuff to enhance, quote unquote, enhancements that they got. They got the whole system rigged for you to not be able to learn discipline, so that you can become who you were always meant to be. And then you got people addicted to drugs, you know. So they got things set up to where you can't control yourself. You're not supposed to learn discipline in their society. Let me go back to Second Esdras 2. I'm sorry, Sirach chapter 2 in the GNT. Verse 2. Verse 1 again. Faithfulness to the Most High, my child. If you are going to serve the Lord, be prepared for times when you will be put to the test. Be sincere and determined. Keep calm when trouble comes. Stay with the Lord. Never abandon him, and you will be prosperous at the end of your days. And see, another thing about discipline is it's not going to be easy. It's not an easy road, and it's not a linear road. It's going to come with many different failures, many different times. You're going to have to try again, or you're going to have to, you're going to understand that you're going to have to level up. But to level up, you got to get back up. You got to keep going, So let me keep going. System of rules. Enforcing a set of rules or standards for behavior and conduct, which can be applied to personal life or organizations. Training and improvement. Developing skills or perfecting character through instruction, exercise, and consistent practice. See, perfecting character. That's the whole goal. That's the ultimate goal. To become the version of yourself. I don't know why I always do this. Let me drink a little sip of water. Hold on. Salaki. To become the version of yourself that you was always designed to be. Because like I was going into with the situation with the benefits being cut off. A lot of these men are going to just deal with these women just because. But the men of the Lord, we ain't just accepting no any woman. Just because now women are getting desperate, they still ain't been humbled yet. The Lord is going to bring a great humbling to these women to the point to where they have no choice but to submit, and that level hasn't happened yet. So we are still perfecting our character, and then on top of that, the type of person that you are becoming, just no any woman just should even have access to that. It takes a special type of woman. I ain't gonna say a special type of woman. It takes a certain type of woman, to have access to you. Not saying that we, thinking we better than everybody or nothing. Not in that sense, but you're supposed to be moving in a godly manner because the Lord told us to be ye holy as He is holy. Can't just we can't just come to the Lord in any shape or fashion that we want, and think He gonna accept us as we are. We have to level up, and that's what Sirach is going into. That's why I said, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation, set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble, because this is a cleansing period. This is a cleansing process. The Lord is taking you through the process of cleansing you from all the filth that we acquired while we was in the world. I'm going to stay in the GNT, verse 3. Stay with the Lord, never abandon him, and you will be prosperous at the end of your days. Accept whatever happens to you, even if you suffer humiliation, be patient. And that's a part of Stoicism. You can't control what happens unto you, but you can control how you react. And that's all through discipline. Now, the next verse is the point. Gold is tested by fire, and human character is tested in the furnace of humiliation. And in the KJV, it says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So going through constant trials is a refining method. But like it said, training and improvement, developing skills or perfecting character through instruction, exercise, and consistent practice. That's all a part of us leveling up in the spirit. So let me get a couple more scriptures. His next one was 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. Let's see. I'm going to start at verse 6, AMP. If you point out these instructions to the brothers and sisters, you will be a good servant of Hamashiach Yahushua, consistently nourished through study on the words of the faith and of good Christian doctrine, which you have closely followed, which is, the doctrine that we believe in, the sound doctrine, not Christianity. But have nothing to do with irrelevant folklore and silly myths. On the other hand, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness, keeping yourself spiritually fit. For physical training is of some value, but godliness, spiritual training is is of value in everything and in every way, since it holds promise for the present life and the life to come. So, like it said, look, on the other hand, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. And that's a part of, like it said, in the definition, developing skills or perfecting character through instruction, exercise, and consistent practice. Because the overall goal is to purge out, which the Lord is doing it. He's purging out the filth that we picked up, that we acquired since we've been on this earth until we came into this truth. And you just think about it. It's been years and years of it's been years and years of indoctrination and habits and wicked behaviors and mindsets that we acquired in this world, on top of lacking discipline, lacking faith, lacking humility, these spiritual traits, or like I said, being spiritually fit, things that because we were spiritually out of shape. We were spiritually out of shape. So we had to constantly go through the training matrix that Yahweh Ba'ashim Abashah has set for each individual person, so that we can become the version of ourselves that the Lord always wanted us to be. So like it say, verse 8, for physical training is of some value, meaning, working out. And that's why we also encourage working out too, physically, because that's that's a level of discipline too. To consistently work out and keep your body in shape, keep yourself up, keep your health up, that 8-inch ship heading to earth. We already know. I'm the chariots. They already here. But Yahweh Shai is on the way. Like I said, for physical training is of some value, working out, and that's for men and women. But godliness, which is spiritual training, spiritually working out, is of value in everything and in every way, since it holds promise for the present life and for the life to come. And in order to get to that point, you got to have discipline. So it says bridge to success, a vital link between goals and accomplishments, helping to build willpower, manage time, and build healthy habits. So like I said, a bridge to success. Discipline is what helps guide you to be more successful. And like I said, self-mastery is definitely the ultimate goal. Being able to control your mind, which is your thoughts, your body, your behavior, your spirit, always making sure you in the right mode, right mentality. And remembering what's important, because this world is full of distractions, and this world can distract you. And then also too, your emotions, so not letting anyone get you out of character. And we have to, and this is a 24/7 thing. This is every day and every night, because the person, it might not be no random outside person. It could be your own people in your house, your spouse, your children, your pets, So it could be a damn spider, Spider get in the house and now you pissed off, It could be anything. Like I said, even the sexual appetite, being able to control that. And I'm not saying control it as in, because you might have a spouse, you might have someone you're dealing with. And I ain't saying you just withhold it from them or whatever like that. But you know what I'm saying? You just able to control it. You're a controller yourself. As for a woman, you ain't spazzing out, or your husband or the man you dealing with make you mad. Y'all on bad terms at the moment, and you go seek another man to kind of console you, and you wind up sleeping with him, or you just seek another man to console you, make you feel better. you know. And as for a man, whether you got a woman or not, you seeing, another woman that got a man, she got a man, she giving you all type of attention. You just, you crazy about the attention she giving you, you know. Let's see. I'll read this one real quick. I kind of want to get down here, but I'll read this. It said how to build discipline, establish systems, make it easier to be disciplined by designing your environment to support your goals, which is definitely important. You don't want to put yourself, if you're trying to overcome something or become greater, you don't want to put yourself in that environment where you can fall. That's not how you build it. If I drink too much, if I'm an alcoholic where I just gotta keep drinking, I gotta get a bottle, I gotta drink, I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where I'm finna just gonna buy all these bottles and then I'm gonna just practice discipline by not drinking them. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation like that because that wouldn't be wise. Because now every time I come home, I know they in there. I would, if I have an issue with that, I would give them away. I would tell, give them away. Look, man, I got a drinking problem. I got to slow down. I got to stop. So look, if I keep these here in my house, I'm gonna drink them. Look, if you want them, you can have them. I'm cool with it. Or whatever the case may be, any situation like that, whatever your issue is, or whatever it is that's, matter of fact, let me get that. Because there's a scripture that go into that. Easily beset you. This is Hebrews 12:1. I'm reading both versions. Whereas seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doeth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. So it's and I'm reading AMP. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, who by faith have testified to the truth of the Most High's absolute faithfulness, stripping off every unnecessary weight and the sin which so easily and cleverly entangles us, let us run with endurance and active persistence the persistence the race that is set before us. So, like you said, look, it's a sin that the sin you gotta get it off of you. You gotta overcome it. The sin that easily sets us. In the NLT, it says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race the Most High has set before us. So, like I said, the sin that so easily trips us up, whatever it is that you keep falling to, the best way to overcome it is to first learn about it. Learn what it does to you. Learn what it's taken away from you. That's a part of discipline too. Because, I'm gonna go back to it. It says, because it was something that said, I'm gonna jump down to separate from punishment. Then I'm gonna go back up. It says, understand the root meaning of discipline as to teach, which is different from punishment, which means to correct or cause pain, which that's a part of discipline, but I'm gonna focus on to teach first, because in order to really learn discipline, you have to learn about what you're involved in, whether it's good or bad. If I'm, like I said, with band, in order for me to become, and I was good too, but in order for me to become a great band student and a great trombone player, I need to learn about the trombone, I need to learn what it's capable of doing and what I can be capable of making it do once I learn how to play it. And once I start to perfect what I've learned, but also too, it says it's not punishment, because the Lord is not, he's not doing this to punish us, but to correct us, and to make us better. So it is a form of correction. I'm gonna get that. uh, corrects those whom he loves. Let me see. Uh, Let me see. How is it worded? Oh, this okay. Despise not the chastening of the Lord. There we go. It's Proverbs 3:11. KJV and AMP. KJV first. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father, the son in whom he delighteth. Now in the AMP it says, my son, do not reject or take lightly the discipline of the Lord. Learn from your mistakes and the testing that comes from his correction through discipline. So discipline does come with correction. It does come because the Lord will, if you do something wrong or if you out of pocket or something, the Lord will put you back on the right path. It ain't to punish you, but it's to get you. It's to get you to understand, or to get you on the right path. Like I said, it's to get you on the right path so you can go in the right direction. So, like I said, nor despise nor rebuke his rebuke. So he basically saying, look, don't be against it. Understand what the Lord is doing to you and doing for you and why. Because the Lord wants you to be a greater version of yourself. He see in you what you don't see yet, but you will see it once you go through the process. It says, for those whom he loves, he corrects, even as a father corrects the son in whom he delights. But like I said, learn from your mistakes and the testing that comes from his correction through discipline. So when it said is which is different from punishment, which means to correct or cause pain, that's also a part of it. The Lord putting you on the right path. So going back to start small, it said begin by consistently doing tasks you dislike, like a small push to get over an initial hump. And that's just going into like the initial phase, whatever it may be, because it's different forms of discipline, different levels to discipline. And you start small and you build, and you get built up. I'm gonna just read practice self-love. It says view discipline as a way of caring for your future self by sticking to your plans. And that's true, because your future self is going to appreciate what your current self is doing now. When it comes to discipline, your future self is going to appreciate what the level that the process that you were willing to go through in order to achieve that future self. Now it says discipline in different contexts. It says personal, building habits, managing time, and achieving personal goals such as exercising and saving money, which I thought I was going to say something different. So now let's get the definitions down here. It says the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of conduct with punishment or other undesired consequences for those failing to comply. And that's what the Lord is doing with us. He's going to discipline the whole earth. He's going to discipline all Israelites, but he's disciplining us for us to become greater, and Lord will, we are of the elect. But for the rest of the nation, to 2/3 of our people, he's disciplining them to bring punishment on them so that they can learn from their mistakes, but so that they will understand their mistakes in the future when they be reborn into the earth, It says controlled behavior from resulting from training. Right. Controlled behavior, meaning because discipline comes, let me look that up. The levels of discipline. The different, including stages of self-discipline. Let's see. Level 1. Well, do I need to read that? Level 1, motivation and willpower. The most basic level, driven by initial inspiration or temptation, but often fleeting and inconsistent. You know, because this is where it's gonna start. You're not gonna get it right on the first try, but you have to continue trying, and that's the point. That's where it starts with. 2, structuring with a schedule. Involves setting clear goals and using discipline to build consistent routines, such as a daily exercise or reading schedule. So, like I said, even whatever it is that's causing you to fall short, or whatever it is you weak. Well, first and foremost, you got to pray about it. You know, and I should have mentioned that earlier. You got to pray about it, and 2, you have to learn about it. Learn what it's doing to you, or learn what if it's something that you're trying to acquire. Learn how beneficial it is. Gonna be expecting the rewards. So you got to learn about the rewards and start expecting them. You know, when you start to practice discipline. This is not really what I wanted. Let's see. Let me see. For self-mastery. All right, level 1, it says task discipline. This is the most fun. I'll read what's in blue. It says task discipline, doing what needs to be done in the moment. Situational discipline, managing your response to specific challenges. And identity level discipline, when a behavior is so deeply ingrained that it's part of your self-perception, which is self-mastery. So it says task discipline. This is the most fundamental level, focusing on performance specific actions or tasks. Examples: eating a healthy meal, exercising, limiting distractions while studying or working on a project. And the goal is to consistently complete necessary actions and avoid distractions that pull you away from them. Now, level 2, situational discipline. This level involves a more conscious effort to manage your reactions and behaviors in different situations. Examples: remaining calm when facing a difficult person, choosing to go for a run even when you don't feel like it, or resisting a temptation at a specific moment. A lot a lot of people are not practicing this. They don't care about discipline. But us in this truth, we do. You know, we do. Goal: to have the control to make conscious decisions and act with intent even when it's difficult. Because guess what? All of this is going to be useful during a time of Jacob's trouble when it gets worse. You know, all of this is going to be useful. Just imagine all the people who don't master or don't have a level of discipline and can't control themselves when they can't eat, they don't have a sense of security, they can't operate in society, you know. Just imagine how they gonna spaz out and instantly take the MOTB, Revelation 13 and 16. They gonna do whatever it takes because they don't have faith. They don't have trust in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. They haven't been built up. They don't have a level of discipline. Level 3, identity level discipline or self-mastery. This is the highest level where discipline becomes an intrinsic part of your identity, not something you force yourself to do. Examples: you don't decide to read, you identify as a reader. You don't force yourself to exercise, you see yourself as an athlete or a sports enthusiast. And this applies to, you know, us in this ministry. To have behavior so deeply ingrained that they are automatic and natural part of who you are, driven by intrinsic motivation rather than external pressure. And I want to see if I pronounced that right. Intrinsic. Okay. If it wasn't right, it was close. But I got one more scripture. Or did I get it? Oh, Romans chapter 8. I forgot which verse it was. which this whole chapter is going into it. This whole chapter. I guess I'm gonna just read. I'm gonna probably read down. Yeah, I started wanting to just read down. It's Romans 8 and 1 in the AMP. Therefore, there is no condemnation, no guilty verdict, no punishment for those who are in Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, who believe in him as personal Lord and Savior. And see, this is what sets us different from the Christians, because they'll say that they believe in the Lord, but they haven't made no transformations. And that's a part of it. If you believe in him, you're gonna change. You know, your mindset and your behavior is going to change. It's not just you believe in him and you stay the same. This is what Paul is going into. It says, for the law of the spirit of life, which is in Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, the law of our new being, has set you free from the law of sin and of death. For what the law could not do, that is, overcome sin and remove its penalty, its power being weakened by the flesh or man's nature without the Holy Spirit, the Most High did. He sent his own son in the likeness of sinful flesh as an offering for sin, and he condemned sin in the flesh, subdued it, and overcame it in the person of his own son, so that the righteous and just requirement of the law might be fulfilled in us who do not live our lives in the way of the flesh, guided by worldliness and our sinful nature, but live our lives in the ways of the Spirit, guided by his power. Why? Because we control it. You know, we have a level of mastery over this flesh now, you know, or that's what we're obtaining, a level of mastery over this flesh, to where we don't give in to our impulses, you know, or we don't give in to when things are unfavorable or situations are unfavorable. We can't handle it. Verse 5, for those who are living according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, which gratify the body. And you just think about it. For example, when people can't, just using the SNAP benefits, when people can't eat, they start to tap into another level of human nature, you know, doing whatever it takes to survive. And instead of having that level, well, first and foremost, these people are not connected to Yahweh Shema Bashah, you know, the mass majority of our people. But for us that are, if we go a little minute without eating, we know that the Lord said he's going to take care of us. So we have to have that faith and that level of control to be patient, you know. And it's been times where, you know, well, of course we all have fasted, you know, keeping the Day of Atonement, you know, just for the 24 hours, and any other fast you have done throughout the year where you had to go a period, you might have went a period without eating or drinking or doing whatever. You understand that builds up discipline as well, you know. So we ain't just looking for the instant gratification of the flesh like most people are. It says, but those who are living according to the Spirit set their minds on the things of the Spirit, his will and purpose. Now the mind of the flesh is death, both now and forever, because it pursues sin. But the mind of the Spirit is life and peace, the spiritual well-being that comes from walking with the Most High, both now and forever. The mind of the flesh, with its sinful pursuits, is actively hostile to the Most High. It does not submit itself to the Most High's law, since it cannot. Right. Because this flesh, like I said, it's subject to all types of impulses that if you don't control yourself, you'll give into and find yourself in a situation unfavorable, you know, whether it be you being harmed, you out of money, you know, you got to deal with a problem now. You done slept with a woman that you know that you didn't want to be with, but you gave into your emotion, your impulses, and now she pregnant with a child. You got to deal with that, you know. And this is a woman you know ain't no good or whatever, because a lot of these situations have happened because men did not have self-control, you know. Men they didn't stop to think about the consequences. But it says, and those who are in the flesh, living a life that caters to sinful appetites and impulses, cannot please the Most High, because the Lord, he don't operate like that, you know, and he don't want to see his people operate like that. Those who truly follow after him, that don't make him happy. Would it make you happy if like for a man, if you had a woman and whenever she was wanting sex and you was at work and she went and got with another man, would that make you happy? Because she couldn't control herself. She was in the flesh. And it said living a life that caters to sinful appetites and impulses. Just because she couldn't wait for you to get off. She went in and fulfilled her desire, but it wasn't with you. Would that make you happy? Or for a woman, you have you get the idea. I ain't finna just sit up here and think about every situation. You get the idea. Well, I can use the same situation for a woman. Would it make you happy if you was in that mode, you wanted sex and you just went and gave it up to a random guy, and then afterward you start regretting it? Because a lot of women do. They'll go and try to fulfill that sexual desire because they can't control it or it's too strong for them. And then after it's done, after it's over with, they had a few minutes of pleasure, but now they regret doing it because they'll be like, why did I do that? Why did I just give myself over to somebody? You don't please the Lord like that. You don't even make yourself happy when you do that. It says, however, you are not living in the flesh, controlled by the sinful nature, but in the spirit, if in fact the spirit of the Most High in you lives in you, directing and guiding you. But if anyone does not have the spirit of Yahweh, he does not belong to him and is not a child of the Most High. Right. So it said we're not controlled by our sinful nature because we have a level of discipline, and we've been going through the different adversities, which the Lord been bringing us through these different adversities to refine our character so that we can be disciplined and control ourselves and our impulses. Control your flesh, which is the ultimate goal. Let's see. I'm going to probably read one more. Probably a couple more. If Yahweh lives in you through your natural body, though your natural body is dead because of sin, your spirit is alive because of righteousness, which he provides. And if the spirit of him who raised Yahweh from the dead lives in you, he who raised Hamashiach Yahweh from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his spirit, which lives in you. So then, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation, but not to our flesh, our human nature, or our worldliness, our sinful capacity to live according to the impulses of the flesh, our nature without the Holy Spirit. Like I said, look, we got an obligation. Look, we obligated to do this. We don't have a choice. It's no choice. There's no other way for us to live that's pleasing to the Lord, where he'll accept us with other than us controlling our flesh, through discipline. There's no other way, because if we start giving into our sinful nature and consistently doing so and not taking into account that the Lord is not pleased with us when we live like that and not trying to change, Lord, he'll eventually stop dealing with you. Like a man who woman go out and cheat on him, he gonna stop dealing with her. Verse 13, for if you are living according to the impulses of the flesh, you are going to die. See, Lord said, if you can't control yourself and you ain't trying to learn, and you don't care about my discipline, you don't care about making that change to make me happy, I'm gonna just stop dealing with you. And it said you gonna die. And a lot of our people are finna experience that. But if you are living by the power of the Holy Spirit, power of the Holy Spirit, you are habitually putting to death the sinful deeds of the flesh, of the body, you will really live forever. Right. For all who are allowing themselves to be led by the Spirit of the Most High are the sons of the Most High. Right. So we are the sons of Yahweh by Shema Shah if we are led by the Spirit, and a part of being led by the Spirit is the Lord refining us and disciplining us, So I'm going to end it right there. And Lord will, this is an edifying lesson. So on that note, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing his word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping his word of sincerity and the truth. Until next